it's been a mixed, reaction. It's been a mixed performances from the African contingent in the round of 32 of the ongoing FIFA World Cup being held in Mexico, Canada, and the US. Our neighbors, Ivory Coast, have been banded out, not because they did not come to the party, but they did play well. But in the most critical aspect of football, the most important thing is that you need to bang in the goals when they come. And against Norway, they played beautiful football. They were attacking. They have the nerve to attack Norway. But the most important thing is that they fluffed all the chances that they were able to create, and they were punished by the most lethal forward in football currently, by Erling Haaland. At the right time, at the right moment, he just tapped in. And people have criticized African teams for their lack of concentration. People have criticized African teams for their lack of composure, especially at the dying embers of the game, when you are either leading or getting the draw. You fight, you just have to go over the line, make sure that you get to extra time, you regroup, and then probably, get a goal, or you push the match to penalties. But against Norway, Ivory Coast was not able to hold their concentration. Ivory Coast was not able to hold their composure, and in the dying embers of the game, they allow Erling Haaland to get the most important goal in their history. And to me, I think that it would have been incredible for Ivory Coast to have qualified to the round of 16, because so far only Morocco has qualified in the African group. Because don't forget that the group stages, 9 out of 10 African countries did qualify from the group stages to the round of 32. Only Tunisia was not able to qualify. So out of the 9, we are expecting that at least 4 or 5 should be able to move out of the round of 32 into the round of 16. That would go a long way to indicate or to prove how strong African football is growing. But should we have 9 out of 10 coming into the round of 32, but not having many, or probably 4 or 5 in the round of 16, then it just shows that we've not been able to add to what we have been able to achieve. But on the day, Ivory Coast did not do their country proud, because against Norway, I think that one of the easiest matchups in the round of 32 was the match between Ivory Coast and Norway, because you look at other teams meeting Brazil, Argentina, and then Spain, and then you get Norway, which is to me very manageable. They failed to come to the party to the extent that they created a lot of chances. They created enough chances for them to have won the game, but when you create chances and you don't put them behind you don't score, it means that you're going to be punished. And that's exactly what Norway did through Erling Haaland. And also, you look at the match between Sweden and France. And to be sincere with you, anybody who understands and appreciates football knows that was a big mismatch. France did not even move to third gear, nor second gear, nor first gear. But I mean, it's incredible what this French national team could do. One thing that people haven't really noticed about this team is the fact that they haven't really been tested defensively. The reason is simple. They are so good when it comes to going forward that teams hardly come out against them. Teams hardly attack them. And on the few occasions that teams have really had a go against them, Maignan and their defensive setup have been able to thwart those efforts. But I mean, the strength of this French national team is not in their defensive setup. The strength of this French national team in their attacking trident of Dembele, Olise, and the most important person in the French national team, Kylian Mbappé. We have egos in this French national team, but the most important, the player with the biggest ego in the national team is Kylian Mbappé. And you see, it is not only about saying, but he has justified that. He now has, I think, 6-7 goals in this tournament, and is now on equal footing with Lionel Messi on the most goals scored in the history of the World Cup, on 16 goals. So it just tells you the magnitude of his play. It just tells you the impact that he has had on this French national team. And against Sweden, it was fantastic. Yeah, I mean, they slipped through the defensive setup of Sweden as if it was a hot knife through butter. The Swedish defense had absolutely no answer to the way the French players were moving. And I think tactically, it's been brilliant. But one thing that we have to make note of, one thing that we have to, let people understand is that Didier Deschamps has done a great job. Because for him to have been at the helm of affairs for more than a decade, and for him to have been able to manage the egos that are in this team, is a massive job, because I can tell you for a fact, it is not every coach. It is not every coach that has the capacity, that has the nuance, that has the ability to manage all these egos. Look at somebody like Dembele. Look at somebody like what's the name? Kylian Mbappé. Look at somebody like Olise, who has had a fantastic season at what's the name? Bayern Munich. You know, you are able to merge all these players into one, for them to accept that there's a higher code, there's a national duty for every single player to put their ego on the line and then work for the French national team. And that is exactly what Didier Deschamps and his technical team has been able to do, you know, to the extent that as we speak now, the favorite to lead this World Cup is France. It's France, because of what they've been able to do against Sweden and against every single opposition that they've come up against. And in another match, Morocco went up against Holland, and it was an incredible match. You know, it was an incredible match. And don't forget that Holland, or Netherlands, has been one of the most touted nations when it comes to the World Cup. Every single World Cup that they have qualified to, they have been among the favorites, but they have always failed to deliver. And against Morocco, they failed to deliver. You know, and I don't really blame them, because this Moroccan national team has been jailed, has been grilled to the extent that they are not scared of any opposition. They come to the party, they play their football, they are not defensive, they are not overly defensive. They attack you from minute 1 to minute 90. And, you know, I mean, an incredible job. They went to go down, they equalized in the dying minutes of the game, took the game to extra time, took the game to penalties, and then were able to, you know, knock Netherlands out. Another match that people were really interested in is the match between Mexico, a host nation, and then Ecuador, because this is more of South American, you know, North American clash. But at the end of the day, there was so much news, especially concerning this match, because the Ecuadorian players did not have a peaceful stay, because every single Mexican citizen, or majority of the citizens, were at their hotel. They were hooting, they were making noises to the extent that they did not have a peaceful stay, they did not have a peaceful sleep. And I can tell you for the fact that it did affect them, because if you look at the start of the game to minute 90, the Mexicans took the crunch of the game. The Mexicans took the game to the Ecuadorians, and at the end of the day, it was telling that they took the win. And it is also incredible, because remember that this is one of the few occasions where the Mexican national team has moved into the round of 16th into a major, you know, World Cup match. And, you know, it's incredible, because we have to accept the fact that teams are punching above their weight. Teams are punching above their weight. And for example, Canada, you know, is also into the round of Canada would also play. And then so the question now is that how many African teams do you think will make it into the round of 16th?